word psychotic is the adjective for psychosis, which is derived from the Greek word psyche, meaning mind, and the ending osis, meaning, in medical terms, a disease state or condition. A psychosis, then, is a disease state of the mind, and psychotic patients are those who are mentally ill. The following sketches show the various types and some of their symptoms. This is the agitated type. Depression or worry has brought where he can't sit still, but goes about in a constant state of tension. By contrast, the catatonic patient suffers from a kind of paralysis of the will. If he's left standing somewhere, you're likely to find him in the same spot, hour, or he'll lie in bed indefinitely without changing his position, not even getting up to go to the latrine. On the other hand, the manic patient is in convulsivity. He responds immediately to almost any impulse. He's destructive and hard to manage. The severely depressed patient is full of a deep sense of unworthiness. He has a terrible feeling of being no good, a failure. This type must be carefully watched for suicidal tendencies. Whereas the paranoid, with delusions of persecution, is sure that everybody's plotting against him. Otherwise, his behavior may seem normal. But never be off your guard with this type. He can become violent at any moment. For the dementia praecox patient, out of this world is a good description. He spends all his time daydreaming and more loses his contact with reality. Now let's go into the hospital and see some actual cases. The important thing to remember about all these men is that they're sick, just as surely as a man who has malaria or cancer. And they need all the consideration, sympathy, and kind treatment that any sick person is entitled to, in many cases even more. In making sure that the patients take part in the daily ward activities, persuasion will usually get results. Never threaten a patient or lose your temper with him, no matter how stubborn he may be. If a patient needs to be helped along a bit, try this method. Pass the left arm behind the patient's back. Grasp his left wrist and press it firmly to his hip. The right hand grasps the patient's right wrist and holds his arm extended across and in front of the body. Here's a method that's useful in managing a patient who suddenly becomes resistive to care. The corpsman's left hand holds the patient's right wrist, and his right hand holds the patient's left wrist. Now, in a situation like this that calls for quick action, a bathrobe or blanket can do a good emergency job. Hold the patient's arms pinned until help arrives. In any of these situations, only enough force to control the patient. And keep calm. Combative cases require the use of at least 3 men with an ordinary GI mattress as a safety measure. If you wear glasses, remove them before entering the room. The 2 men with the mattress enter the room first. To a disturbed combative patient, the approach of a lone corpsman would only be a challenge to fight. But the picture of 3 calm, businesslike men standing in the doorway will usually have the opposite effect. Add a few friendly and persuasion, and a peaceful solution is nearly always the result. But if not, proceed as follows. Corpsmen 1 and 2 back the patient into a corner, the mattress acting as a perfect buffer. Corpsman 3 slips in behind the patient and quickly pins his arms. The mattress is now dropped. Corpsman 1 grasping the patient around his hips and lifting as Corpsman 2 takes charge of the legs and feet. Let's try that again in slow motion. The arms are slipped under the patient's armpits. The left hand grasps the patient's right wrist. The right hand his left wrist. Keep your grips tight enough so that even with the patient's writhing and twisting, he cannot get away. He might hurt himself or you. With a very strong patient, you may need an extra man. In a case of this kind, the medical officer has probably given orders for the patient to be placed in a continuous tub. Here's a cross-section drawing of a continuous tub. This treatment is really nothing more than a prolonged warm bath with the conditions scientifically controlled. But it's one of the most effective known methods of sedation, nerves. The patient lies on a canvas hammock suspended in the tub. A strong canvas water flows through the tub constantly, entering through the intake valve at the bottom and draining off through the overflow valve at the top. A special thermostatic water mixing valve regulates the temperature of the bath, which should be kept as close to 96 degrees as possible, and in no case be allowed to vary more than 1 degree above or below that figure. This is the tub room. First, the hammock is put in place. For a patient who is very violent, a slightly different hammock is used, equipped with straps to secure the patient's arms and legs. In any case, a quilted pad or a folded sheet is placed over them.
2-1 underdog tonight, but the 38-year-old champion looks like he's out to end it fast. This is a new experience for Marciano. Usually it's the Rock who's dishing it out. Leading upsets is Walcott's specialty. Jersey Joe would like to finish off Marciano right here in round one. Walcott gets in with a left hook that floors Marciano. In slow motion, we can see how the champion timed that punch to perfection, shooting it right in with 200 pounds of weight behind it. Marciano is caught flush, his right hand too low to block Walcott's sizzling left hook. This is the first time Rocky has ever been down, but he has the presence of mind to take an 8 count. Marciano knows that tonight he has a real war in his hands. There was no let-up in rounds 2 through 8, with both fighters throwing haymakers. Here in round 9, this excellent close-up shot shows you the fury of the face. Neither man is letting up for an instant. Every one of these punches is intended to end the fight. In rounds 10 through 12, Walcott had a decided edge, and he's definitely ahead on points. Now watch Rocky's right hand. That's it. In slow motion, as Walcott starts to throw a right hand, the Rock beats him to it. The World Heavyweight Championship was riding on that one devastating right to the jaw. Rocky Marciano, the Brockton blockbuster, becomes the 18th World Heavyweight Champion under the Marquis of Queensberry rules as Jersey Joe Walcott is counted out. An explosive knockout finish to one of the most sensational heavyweight championship fights of all time.